Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to AISD. Great to see so many familiar faces here today. So welcome to the AISD Board Auditorium for the Joint Subcommittee. Today's meeting is being broadcast live on AISD TV, Channel 22 on Spectrum, and Channel 99 on AT&T Uverse. So as the Board President for Austin ISD, I will serve as today's presiding officer. I'll call the meeting of the Joint Subcommittee to order at 11:52 a.m. So I would like to show that the following members are present. If you are an elected official and you're here, please state your name and position.
Allison Alter, Council Member, District 10, Austin City Council.
Bridget Shea, Travis County Commissioner, Precinct 2.
And I'm Ryan Alter, Austin City Council, District 5.
And on Zoom, we have
Trustee Zapata, District 2.
Thank you. So we do not have any public comment today, so we will just move right in. So the first item is to approve the meeting minutes for January 22nd. And you'll see those minutes are in your binders. So,
Approval.
yes. All right. So we have a motion to approve and a second. So a motion from Bridget Shea and a second from Allison Alter. I guess we should call it to vote. All those in favor to approve the minutes, raise your hand. All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So next on the agenda is after-school care. There is also a written report in your packet. Travis County will provide a report on after-school care at our June meeting, and we've set aside 30 minutes for the presentation and questions and answers for today. So there are written materials in your notebook. And today we have some really talented after-school folks here. We have Jeremy Martorell. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes. Okay, from AISD, and Kimberly McNeely from Austin Parks and Recreation presenting. So welcome, and whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Martorell. I'm the director for the AISD Third Base After School program. And I'm here today to talk about kind of the direction our program is headed. No, we're not. We're not moving. The AISD After School program has been in Austin for over 25 years. At its peak previous to this year, it was at 7 elementary locations. After the pandemic, the program saw a decrease in enrollment to around 100 students at 5 campuses. The district recently made a commitment to revitalize the program and expand to all of the elementary school campuses within its boundaries. And we decided to do this in 3 phases. Phase 1 will occur during the 23-24 school year, which is the one we're currently in, which is at 24 locations. Phase 2, which will be 24-25, is going to expand to 16 more locations. And then in phase 3, during the 25-26 school year, we will expand to 38 locations. Those locations are detailed in your packets. The tuition rate comparison for the AISD Third Base program, we are the cheapest program provider in our district. Currently, it's $275 per month compared to some of the other providers that are in our current campuses. We also, since we're a licensed program, are able to accept some tuition assistance and subsidies for our students and families. From Workforce Solutions, City of Austin, Child Care Aware of America, ACC, and we have our own Third Base After School Financial Aid Assistance Program as well. Summer camp, we are running 4 summer camps this summer, expanding from 2 from the previous year. We have increased the capacity from 100 to 400 students, and increased the number of weeks offered this summer from 7 to 10. We currently have 2 summer camps that are full and on waiting list, and we have 2 more that are currently accepting registration. And that is the end of the presentation.
Thank you. All right. Do we have, so let's open this up to discussion. So folks, do y'all have any questions? Commissioner Trevelyan, welcome.
Thank you. You laid out some of your capacity issues for us. All right. So now I am rarely asked to talk louder. Right? But okay. All right. But I want to make sure that I understand your existing capacity issues. I think you've laid out good information for us. I'm interested in the need issues as well. Not only the capacity that you have on campus, how many you're serving, but how many are on the waiting list in each area, and do we have an idea of what it would take to get to all of those students?
Sure. Yes, sir. There is a great need at several campuses, which are listed in the packet as well. But the need we have is staffing. We need to continue to recruit and hire staff to accommodate the students, because being a licensed program, we have certain ratios that we need to meet the compliance. At some campuses, there's also space issues. Lee Elementary School, for instance, they're serving over 100 students, and there's close to 60 students, I believe, on that wait list. And it's simply, we just don't have a place to put them after school. There are classrooms there, but the teachers are usually there till 4 o'clock, which means we can't put the kids in those rooms during after school. So there's some capacity issues at some of the campuses simply because of the size.
Okay.
And
I want to better understand your capacity issues, particularly as it relates to available personnel.
I'm sorry.
I want to understand your capacity issues as it relates to available personnel, meaning we know what our numbers are in terms of need. I would need X number of teachers if I were going to take X number of students off the waiting list. How do I get from here to there is what I'm interested in.
Our targeted ratio is 1 to 18. So in order to be able to take more students, from a staffing perspective, for every 18 students, we would need 1 staff member to be able to work. And then we do have the full-time staff that are there as well, but we've already filled all of those positions in terms of we have a full-time director on site at those campuses. So it's mainly the part-time staff. And we're having a hard time recruiting the part-time hourly staff members. We are getting some applications trickle in here and there, but it has been quite the challenge. So in order to increase the number of students at each campus, we need 1 to 18 is what our target range is for our program.
Commissioner Trevelyan, and maybe something we can discuss, it'd be interesting to know what are some of the barriers, right, that are keeping us from filling those positions. If you could speak to that, just based on what you've heard. I know we have some applications rolling in, but in an effort to address the available, the wait list, but being mindful of the capacity challenges, that'll be a barrier we have to get through. And so anything you could speak to, I think would also be helpful.
Yes, sir. The challenge with the program is too, we're new, so a lot of people are learning about the program and referring some of the applicants to the district website and going through that website to apply. We have gone to Workforce Solutions recruitment events. We've been to ACC recruitment events, Houston Tillotson. So we're reaching out to try to be on college campuses to reach out to those individuals because those are usually the people that will work with us during the summer and during after school. So establishing those relationships, again, this is our first year in service, so they're kind of learning about us, and we're learning the areas where we can recruit and obtain more staff.
And what I'm thinking about is a clear path. When we talk about career progression, I need to know exactly what type of program needs to be put in place with whom in order to train somebody to be prepared. Is it something with Workforce Solutions? Is it something with Capital Idea? Is it something with ACC? What are the parameters for preparing someone for an entry level into childcare, so that we can say if we get X number of people trained in this process, then we can move them to the classroom within this period of time. Maybe can't be done this school year, but maybe it can be a process that people work through during the summer and be prepared when we come back in August, or be prepared in January. But I need to know what the discrete process is, the things that need to be put in place to prepare the personnel that we need in those positions.
Yes, sir. In order to be an entry-level position, they just have to have a high school diploma, or they can also be in a career prep program within one of our high schools and still work for the program. So they need to be 18 years old or have a high school diploma, and they can work for us.
Because what I have found is, particularly from a workforce standpoint, we'll put programs together for CDLs, for apprenticeships with IBEW, and people don't know about them. So I need to be able to define something and put it in front of people so that we can tell them, if you do these things, you can provide child care for your child. Yes, or you can be employed in that area. So.
Yes, sir.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I think, Commissioner, as we think about, we have 2 additional fiscal years coming up, or school years. And so you just look at the wait list that we have at the existing schools and thinking about extrapolating that across the other schools as we fill those up, there's going to be significant need, right? And so identifying the pipelines, making sure we have the relationships, reducing the barriers, also interested to understand how compensation plays into this. So we can really understand, where that gap is and how we can approach that and be in alignment.
And I won't ask as many questions. My wife tells me that I'm a little pushy when I'm hungry. So I'll slow down, take a bite. We'll be all right. Okay. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate your questions, Commissioner Trevilian. And I'd like to get a further drill down on sort of the wait list. So in the backup, it says that the current wait list is 325 for the current. And then I know you have the expansion plans and people are paying into that, but trying to understand kind of the need and what funding is involved, and like if we were doing this right by the time that you expanded it out, what does it cost AISD to provide this, and how much, and that's charging folks, and there's going to be for some people for whom that's challenging. So do you have any data that would help us get at that need and the overall magnitude? And then I guess we have these other programs. So what is the interplay? And maybe that's a question for when we're done, to understand the interplay across the programs and what the intention is there relative to the other programs.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. The program is tuition based, so there's no cost to the district. We run strictly on the tuition that we receive from the families. We did receive a Child Care Relief Fund grant several years ago, which allowed Third Base, when it was operating at those 5 locations, to save a little bit of revenue to help with the expansion plans to the current campuses that we're at. And then moving forward, as we continue to staff the current programs, we'll be able to expand to the new schools in a reasonable time frame. They may not all be at the beginning of the school year based on staffing, but it will definitely be during the 24-25 school year. We've expanded to 3 new programs this school year that weren't currently slotted to come on board during the 23-24 school year because there was a need at the campus. So Andrews, Odom, and Wynn were also added this school year because there was a need, and we were able to meet that need with staffing and revenue that we already collected from the families.
And so maybe one thing that would be helpful is if we could expand on how that information was collected from families, because I think what we're trying to explore is 2 or 3 years out, how would we be able to define what the expected need may be, right, at that time, so we can begin to align resources so that we can support our families, fiscal year 2, 3, and 4, and obviously continuing on.
Yes, sir. The need at the schools, we haven't seen as much need at some of the Title I schools that offer primetime and ACE. The enrollment has been very low at those schools because there's the free programs at the campus that are already available to those families. So if you see it like Linder, I think has 2 to 5 students that are enrolled there currently. So we're kind of catching the ones that don't meet the needs of that one program, but we're there to fill the gaps for the others. At the other campuses, we're ranging anywhere from 8 to 10% after school participation, and we project that at these other schools that have current providers that are already currently serving programs that are there. So moving forward, that's kind of what we project the need based on, is the population of the campus as far as the number of students enrolled and the need that they currently have. The expansion plan that was laid out was done so in a manner to fill the void of the campuses this first year that didn't have programs already on board and in service, to fill the gaps to the students that need care at those individual elementary schools that didn't have care previously. And now we're expanding out to other campuses based on the number of providers they already have in service and the number of students they have there.
So though we have multiple providers, you're one provider trying to meet a gap, and there are multiple providers, some of whom are doing great programs that we want to keep those programs and support those programs. Do we have a sense of the overall need for after school kind of generally across all of the campuses? And if you were charging these amounts, like how much that is, and then kind of how much the gap is of where we're not serving it?
Yeah, I'm not aware of an
Through any of the
analysis where we kind of extrapolate out and based on the fee, kind of what the potential opportunity would be. It'd be interesting to know, the 8 to 10% rule. Like we just talked about, is that a standard that we can use to model what the overall need might be across the school district? Because if it is, then we can certainly apply that, and that'll capture the need, not only that is being addressed by AISD, but also with our partners, right? Because that'd be based on the student population, not just, what we're able to cover. So I think we could kind of back into that, but I'm not aware of an existing analysis that kind of gets to your question, but we could probably come up with something that answers that at a high level.
And sorry to ask another question,
No,
but
it's
for the 8 to 10% rule, is that, like, how would you think about that 8 to 10% rule? That's 8 to 10% of the kids need after school care, or 8 to 10% kids don't have after school yet? What is that measuring?
Yes, that's the 8 to 10% is what we're capturing now. There are some campuses that are a lot higher than that. Lee, for instance, is 20 to 23%, which is why there's such a high wait list of that student enrollment. But the 10%, 8% range is kind of what we're seeing at the other campuses that we're serving. There are some that are a bit higher, so it could be a little bit different. But again, there hasn't been a formal survey or research sent to find out that number.
But is that 8 to 10% that need AISD third base, or is that 8 to 10% that need after school?
It would be after school care, yes, sir. And at one of the campus, Blanton, for instance, there's 3 programs currently in service there. There's the YMCA Creative Action and AISD Third Base, and they all still have wait lists at that campus that serves over 300 students every day after school. Austin is considered a child care desert, so there's a large need for child care in the city of Austin.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shea.
Yeah, is the out of time, or out of school time programs targeted for students older than elementary? I'm just trying to understand if there's a plan for or capacity for providing after-school services for older students beyond elementary school.
We do not currently have that on our model. It's just elementary age students. So it's school age, which is, we do have some pre-K 3 that are full day, and then all the way to some 6th graders that are served on campuses that they currently attend elementary school campuses.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shea, you'll see some of that information in the next presentation.
So I have a couple of questions. Councilmember Alter, you asked the exact question that I had. So I would be very curious. I know that after-school care is important to all of us. It's especially critical, I would say, like as we're thinking about the impact of high quality programs on student outcomes, and with the state not really having a very positive funding, public education funding outlook, to say the least. And so, really being clear on what the unmet need is for after school care in the city of Austin is one number I would like to get a handle on. So not just for a specific program, but just like overall, what is the unmet need? Is it 10,000 students? Is it 5,000? Like I don't really have a sense of who's not getting after school that may not even be on a wait list, because there are families who may not even sign up to be on a wait list because they don't know that they can do that. And oftentimes those are our families that we most need to be reaching out to. And so that's what I'd be really curious about. I don't know if there have been any studies at the city or county level in this area. Do we know? Okay, and I don't think we have at the district. I know we have a lot with childcare, like early childcare, but I don't see a similar study for after school. And I know after school, like there has been plenty of research. I know Commissioner Trevelyan has talked about this a lot over the years, as long as I've known you, on the potential impact of after school.
And that's really the difficulty, that there are a lot of creative and successful things happening independently of each other. And the idea is, how do you put an asset map together that identifies all of the things that are being done, where they're being effective, and then where there are gaps, so that we can expand in places where successful programs need resources, and we can identify where similar problems can be addressed on other campuses with similar resources.
That's right.
It's just, they're just operating independently of each other as opposed to together, which is why we brought all the superintendents together.
That's right. That's right. So I think, so one question for me is, can this body somehow figure out how to calculate the unmet need in Austin? I'm just going to throw that out there.
Austin or the county?
I would say, let's start with Austin. Well, I don't know.
See, I'm gonna pray for you.
I mean, I would say ideally the county, but I mean, I think the Austin, let's start with Austin.
Sarah Stone is here from Travis County.
Hello.
She's been working on what we can find for after-school care, what kind of information. Do you want to tell them a little bit about what you're working on?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Stone. I'm a planner in research and planning and health and human services in Travis County. And one of the, issue areas that I work with is the youth issue area. And what Pilar just mentioned is something we've been working on for several weeks now. And some of what we're finding is that we don't have the systems within the city or the county to capture those numbers. So Learn All the Time is here today. Can y'all raise your hands back there? Yeah. And they've been incredibly helpful in figuring that out. What they have been able to do is look at the programs that are registered with them. You can also do a count through the license programs. We also have a request from TEA for all of the programs within Title I schools within the county. There's multiple funding sources, and what we're seeing is the need for more support to create a system to capture the questions that specifically you and Ms. Alter have been asking. I would say that we do have some really strong partnerships. There's a very strong emphasis on quality within our area, which there's a lot of research that unless you have a quality program, that a place where kids go is not the same as a place where kids are safe and respected and have tutoring and have enrichment and have a meal, like Commissioner Trevelyan has mentioned. So,
and that's the really critical point for me, because you've got a lot of people that are being pushed out of the city because of affordability. And I mean, when you look at the footprint every year, you can just look at kids that we know through church, look at kids that we know through youth programs, and when they once lived in University Hills or Lakeside or Colony Park, they're being pushed further out into places where they don't have systems. So it's going to be incumbent upon us to make sure that we are understanding where people are going, understanding what's there, and expanding the opportunities for them, because we in Manor, a kid can get out of school at 3 o'clock, be put out of a bus, and there's no gymnasium, and there's no baseball field, and there's no football field, there's no nothing. And at the end of the day, I've got to be most concerned about the folks who have nothing. And so it's going to be important that we be able to define what it is we're looking for and understand migration patterns as people are being pushed out of the city because of affordability and gentrification. So.
Appreciate that. Is there a study that is, you mentioned another group, are they actually doing a study on this, and when can we get those numbers? Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. We're all trying, and there's multiple sources. So that's really coming together. What we have found is there was a big impact with COVID, with after-school funding, as we've all noticed. I also want to make a distinction. People use the words expanded learning out of school time and after school. And after school care would typically between the hours of, say, 3 to 7, after school specifically. But we're also seeing a huge need for summer programming and summer enrichment. So I just want to make sure, I was glad to hear about prime time expanding. That's a huge need in our community. I'll look back over here at my partner that I talked to, and
Sorry.
you're in that too. I believe the city of Austin's really one of the largest after-school providers.
Yeah.
So it's all of us kind of coming together and pulling it together. So we're on our way. And I heard your question about
Yeah.
a time date, and I will do my best to connect with Pilar to see if we can come up with a specific time date.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then in terms of the quality issue, it's one thing to look at the cost. Of course, we want these to be affordable programming, but as Commissioner Trevilian mentioned, the quality of the programming is very important. How are we measuring that in AISD? I know that we've shifted, our approach to after-school care in order to expand it. I just want to make sure we're not doing that at the expense of high-quality programming. So is there anything you can share around that?
Yes, ma'am. We are part of the Texas Rising Star requirements, so we have to be licensed for a year to be able to qualify as a TRS provider, which is, I know it's a little confusing because of the teacher retirement system, but it stands for Texas Rising Star. It's through Workforce Solutions, and it's a quality program that you have to meet certain standards to be able to qualify for, and then your program will be given a star rating from 2 to 4 stars based on the quality of your program. So they actually have assessors come out and assess you to see the quality of your program and give you your rating. And then that also contributes to the reimbursement rate that you get from Workforce Solutions CCS program. So we are working towards that. 7 of our campuses are already eligible, and we've already started that process to ensure that we are providing a quality program.
Are we also measuring student outcomes as a result of, participation in our programs? Like, are we seeing an increase in attendance or test scores, things like that?
Yes, ma'am. We did do an attendance tracker, so I think we are maybe 2% above the average for the district. As far as like the graduation rates or them moving on to the next grade level, this is the first year that we're kind of where we are. So that'll probably be something we need to look at going into next year.
Yeah, President Singh, I think that's a great opportunity, right, to identify, how this program is actually improving outcomes. 2% improvement in average daily attendance is pretty significant. But yeah, there are many other things that we can continue to track and report out on. And maybe even developing a standard for how we report out would be helpful.
Thank you. And I know that there are other, I know the Anti-Erotic Foundation has a long history of collecting this type of data, and sort of, if there is a model out there that's already useful and used, that would be probably a great tool so that we can start having standardized systems so that we can collect data from different providers into one. But I think that's what I'm getting at. It's like, if we want to solve this in a county, city, school district fashion, then we need to start thinking about this in that way and having common data sets and all of that. So I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from y'all?
Well, I just want to piggyback to what you're saying. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
If there's a way, when you talk about quality, what does quality mean? Because if we could include just literacy in everything that we do, then that would be a big way for us to align with what we're trying to get the students to learn during the school day. So is that something that can be done? Is that something that is being done? Is that something that's being measured? Or, because we're still not seeing our numbers where they need to be.
Yes, that is definitely something that can be done. It's not currently being measured, but we do offer homework time every day in assistance with their work. It's usually Monday through Thursday. We give them a break on Friday where we don't do homework time with them, but we do have time set aside each day to help them with their homework.
Well, it's more than that because like all the programming I'm organizing at Mendez and the Community Love Hub, every partner I have said, even if you're teaching soccer, if you're doing football, if you're doing filmmaking, reading has to be part of all of that because students have to understand everything involves reading. So it's doing it in a way that they're gonna enjoy it. Uh, you put them back in homework, they're going to feel like they're back in during the classroom. But this is a way to connect that reading is with everything. So all those enrichment classes, I have done site visits to many of them, and I don't see students very involved. They seem bored, So we have to find something that they really love to do and include reading in it. When we taught ballet at Barrington, they learned about ballerinas, important about, from kindergarten, when they did cook and read it and read and eat it, it was reading recipes and eating what they made. So always including reading in every single thing that we can. It's, to me, it doesn't sound very hard to do. Is that something that can be done?
Yeah, Trustee Zapata, this is Matthias. I think as we kind of continue to develop the program, getting input, understanding kind of what progress we made this year, I think would be a really good path forward. Certainly identifying opportunities to, create alignment, with, whether it's early literacy, early numeracy, whatever it might be. And I think what we're talking about is if we are better aligned and we are all on the same page, I think we would be able to get to that point quicker. I think right now, we have programs that AIC oversees. There are programs that our partners oversee, and each of them have slightly different approaches. And so I think what we're talking about is getting to where you want us to be, and we're certainly wanting to get there as well.
Right. And Superintendent, could you also mention, earlier you mentioned about compensation. What are we paying people that are working in after school and summer camps?
Sure. The part-time rate starts at $20.67 an hour, I believe.
Okay.
So I'm going to thank you, Trustee
Thank
Zapata.
you.
I'm going to move us along to Ms. McNeely. I believe you also have a presentation for us. So whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Kimberly McNeely. I serve as the Parks and Recreation Director. We have some out-of-school time individuals that work very specifically. However, just based upon our schedules, I was the best individual to participate in this presentation today. So there may be some questions that you have that I'll have to do follow-up, but I do have a lot of information that I think is pertinent to the questions that you have. So for the purposes of this presentation, the Parks and Recreation Department, we consider out-of-school time the development, the programs that are part of that are before and after school, and that they are comprehensive in that ideally they support the working families and they support the needs for childcare, that they are safe places for students, and that they also have some academic support, some enrichment activities, and some youth development opportunities. So in very simple terms, we talk about that meaning that you have something that enhances the school day, either homework help or some other sort of activity that helps reinforce academic things that are happening in the school day. You have a healthy snack that helps children ensure that they are nourished. You have something that's enriching, which means that those individuals will experience something that they might not have experienced before, that they may be able to immerse themselves in later. So if you like performing arts, or you like something out in nature and you find that that's something that you really love in after school or in summer camp, we also offer those immersive activities in other spaces within the Parks and Recreation Department. And lastly, something active. We want the children to be using their getting physically healthy, right? Using physical activity to get their energy out and to become healthy individuals. The questions that you asked, they're not in here, but I'm just going to tell you. After school program is $140 a week, and that is the average cost. However, that is a supplemented cost because the City of Austin can supplement programs. Beyond that, if you meet certain criteria, the cost of after school is half of that. So that would be $70 a week if you meet certain criteria. And then there's also an additional scholarship available if you meet other financial criteria. For the summertime programs, for the summer camp programs, it's $560 a week. And again, there is an additional half off and then an additional scholarship if you meet certain criteria. So we try to make that as affordable as possible. We also, for the quality component of our program, we abide by the youth program quality assessment. So basically, we have an assessor that comes in our program and observes the children and tries to understand through observation if those children have different developmental assets. You know, are they demonstrating behaviors that say that they have a sense of belonging? Are they demonstrating behaviors that say that they can do conflict resolution? Are they demonstrating behaviors that say that they have self-respect or self-esteem? And what happens is that that's a continuous improvement program, in that if we are not seeing some of those things, and you're not going to see everything in every assessment, right? But if we're not seeing those things, or if we're seeing indicators that the children don't have those assets, then we specifically put together training for our team members to be able to learn a skill set or strategies to build those developmental assets. And we also think about this in the youth development program, YPQ, and meaning that kids need certain things to be successful. There was a long time ago, before I came here to Austin, there was a study that was done that basically said, hey, when you ask children, what do you need to be successful, they will tell you those different assets that they need. And so YPQ is predicated on building those assets so that when children graduate from school, that they're able to be healthy, happy, productive community members, and that they have everything that they need to be successful. So that's just the basic part of the quality question that you had, and then also the cost question. So we align our programs with the citywide strategies and also with the Parks and Recreation Department's long-term strategies. So those are the different kinds of benchmarks that we have set for ourselves. One other thing that I think is important that's not in the notes that I need to tell you is that we are not subject to licensing. However, we are subject to something called local standards of care, which means every year in and around April, I think it just happened. Did it just happen in March? This week. We have to come before the council and ask the council to adopt an ordinance that tells us how it is that we are to operate our after-school programs and our out-of-school time programs. Our ordinance mirrors that is this part of the state licensing. So it mirrors the ratios, it mirrors the qualifications for the staff that can be providing after-school program. And it just essentially is the same as the state. It's just that it's locally adopted. So that is why we've adopted the YPQ program, right? Because we have a little bit of a separate process. It mirrors the state, but it's just a little bit separate.
One question.
Yes.
How do you address issues of cultural competence? as you provide your service?
I will have to give you, I will have to let you know how we do that, but I know that in our youth development assets, one of those things is cultural competence, but part of the thing that I would have to tell you, Commissioner Trevilian, is exactly how we do that to provide you some examples, but I don't have that right today, but I will get that. I'm really lucky I have Casey over there writing down all the questions so that I can provide you the responses.
Thank you.
So we have our programs divided into some different sections. The community recreation program is the main provider of our out-of-school time programs. And so you're going to see these headings as to the different divisions of the city of Austin that provide this. So they provide things that are after school. C camp means that we have the day camps when AISD doesn't have school. We just call them C camps, which just means that there's an opportunity for children to sign up for those camps. And then summer camp, and we're going to talk a little bit about teen programs. So our recreation center program, I won't read this to you, but this basically gives you the ideas of what happens at a typical summer camp, beg your pardon, after school program at a recreation center. It's offered at 15 recreation centers, and we have 600 individuals enrolled. We do have some capacity for 720 individuals, which means that we have to do a better job of understanding why some of those students, in some spaces we have too many individuals, so we have waiting lists from certain schools to certain recreation centers, but in other areas we don't have we don't have the same number. We don't have a full roster in some recreation centers, and so we're similar to Third Basin. Looks like we have some review and some strategies to work out to make sure that all the spots are filled and all the children who need a program are served. Our summer camp program is offered at 15 recreation centers, and we have 720 spaces available. And you might say, why are you limiting yourself to 720? And that's because that's the capacity of the recreation center space. Physically, you can only put so many humans in a given area, and this is the number of individuals based upon a quality program, understanding that everybody having room to move around, how much space that we actually need. And this slide tells you a little bit about what those programs look like. We also have an area called the Centralized Programming Division, and they help us with our outreach program. So I think Commissioner Trevilian, you said, what about where there's not something or where people are at? We try to utilize our Centralized Programming Division to do outreach programming and reach those individuals who perhaps are not right next door to a recreation center or don't have that access. And we have community initiatives, teen outreach and leadership, and then also our therapeutic recreation services. And so in the community recreation, here's all the numbers. You'll see we serve approximately 1,400 individuals with financial aid, and then we have about 728 individuals that receive that additional. So I told you how we have two different programs. We also have about 135 enhancement classes that are provided throughout those, throughout our out-of-school time program. Throughout our after-school programming, and then we provide about 90,000 meals that are free, and that is also part of a backpack program. So at 13 sites that qualify for the backpack program on weekends, children go home with a backpack with some basic essentials for themselves over the weekend, and then also for their families. I'm not here to say that it feeds families of 10 or anything, but it's a certain amount of essentials that will go home with them. And then we also have 19 sites that participate in the summer food program, and that includes 6 playground programs that we have. It's important to know that every site qualifies, right? There has to be certain criteria that a particular area of the city that you would meet, so not every area of the city is qualified for these programs. Our outreach team for our youth program, we have a couple of programs. We have Teens in Leadership, or we call it the TILT program, Totally Cool, Totally Art, and Roving Leaders. Roving Leaders is exactly like it sounds. It goes out into communities and picks up children who might not have direct access to a recreation center, and either takes them somewhere or brings the program to them so that they're able to immerse themselves in these different ideas. So we have things that related to public relations and social media and being able to be behind a camera and production. We have sports leadership where teens are learning not only about the sports and the sports skills, but how to be coaches or how to maybe perhaps later on coach in our area in the Parks and Recreation centers where they can actually be paid. There's skill development depending upon, sometimes that's robotics, sometimes that's coding, just depends upon the particular skill. Cooking essentials, that's culinary arts. Again, each of these are trying to help students that are in that teen group learn a skill that might take them somewhere else, might give them a job opportunity. It might actually just help them at home, right? If they can cook better, then they're making healthy meals for themselves and then they're eating good stuff with their family. We did this in program hours because it's hard to say exactly where they're at, right? Because it depends upon where the outreach are. So we measured this particular program in program hours, and so over 1,300 program hours, and it's free programming to teens. The summer playground program is also a free program. It's free drop-in Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. It primarily serves children ages 5 to 12. If you show up and you are older than that, we are absolutely going to accept you into the program or have you be a part of the program. It's just that the activities are geared for ages 5 to 12. When you're younger than 5, we are not equipped to take care of children. However, I just want you to know, should a 3 or 4-year-old come with an older sibling, we figure out how to manage that. We're not going to tell children that they have to go and sit in their house instead of participating in a playground program right down their street. We figure it out. These are spread throughout the city. They're north, central, and south. There's only 6 locations, and you might say, well, gosh, why aren't you doing more? And the honest reason is just because of the available funding for this program. But we did have over 1,200 enrollments in 2023, and obviously 2024 is coming up, so we'll have different numbers for that. This flyer tells you a little bit about those programs and the locations. The other service that we're able to provide, and I think this is in alignment with things that AISD is able to do, but we provide therapeutic recreation services. And so for individuals who have disabilities and are choosing a program that is specifically for individuals with disabilities, and it could be cognitive or it could be physical, they might go to the Macbeth Recreation Center or the Alamo or the Dottie Jordan Recreation Center for those services. But I also want you to know we have what we call inclusion services, which means that if a mom or a parent, somebody, a guardian, signs a child up for a after school or a summer camp program and indicates that there might be some reasonable accommodation that is needed for the child to be successful at any of our locations, then we have a mechanism by which to provide inclusion services. And usually that could be some adaptive equipment, if that's what it is, or it could be an additional individual in the ratio to help a child be successful in that program. And so we have individuals that are certified therapeutic recreation specialists. They're part of our therapeutic recreation program. Those individuals help with the evaluation and then actually can provide different goals and strategies while the child is participating in the after-school program as part of therapeutic recreation to help further some goals that might be consistent with things that are happening in AISD. Or frankly, for some parents, it's just they just want their child to be able to have fun this summer and take a break from that. And I'm not saying academics aren't important. I'm just saying that's what some parents are saying to us. And so therefore, we just provide whatever that child needs to be successful in the program. And here's a little bit about our about the numbers surrounding that. So we have these immersive programs, and immersive programs are also museums and cultural centers, and so they also have after-school summer camp and teen programs. These programs are specifically, I think, Commissioner Trevelyan, you asked me about how do you help with cultural competency. I think it's important to tell you how we do that in general. I'm just going to call it general, but in these immersive programs, some of them are specifically around particular cultures. So individuals sign up for this program because they really want to learn about that particular culture or about that particular thing. And all the programs here are related to the theme of that particular camp. And so obviously the Asian American Resource Center is about Asian culture. The Doherty Art Center is specifically about arts. The Mexican American Cultural Center is about the Mexican American culture, and the George Carver Washington Museum immerses children in the African American culture or the Black culture. I think that they've since expanded their cultural competencies. And you're also going to see in here when you want to immerse yourself into nature, there's also those programs. And so here's a little bit about the programs that are offered at the cultural centers. This is just a basic understanding of those. We actually have a summer camp that is bilingual at this particular time, specifically bilingual for Mexican American or Mexican, using the Spanish. Here's a little bit about those programs. I'm just going to go very quickly. Caminos is the immersive year-long program. It's an internship that is specifically for teens. And then we have other support leadership programs at the Mexican American Cultural Center. We have public outreach at the MAC, and we also have different exhibits that the youth will put together that we'll put on. And so these programs, not only are they entertaining, but they're also teaching some of our youth some skills at the cultural centers. These are some other programs, the Work in Progress, which is an immersive program that prepares teens living in Austin if they're interested specifically in the arts. This is offered out of the Doherty Arts Center. And then also we have the Doherty Arts Center is part of the cultural programs within the Recreation Center that commits to addressing economic and racial inequalities within the city. So teens from historically marginalized communities are especially encouraged to apply for the WIP program. These are the Nature Center programs with the Camacho Recreation Center. It's really an outdoor active recreation program. They do things like how to ride mountain bikes. They have a filming component. They have a film festival at the end of the year. They do caving, kayaking, canoeing, everything outdoors. So if you're in the summertime or walking the trail, you might see a group of 12 to 18 kids riding on a bike. They're probably part of this program. There's 122 classes, 274 hours of programming. It tells you all the participants by the numbers. And then we have our Austin Nature and Science Center, again, immersing children in nature. They have about 1,100 participants. They have, even in the heat wave, we figure out how to offer these programs. And so we have 655 campers that are enrolled across 10 weeks. They do things like also out of the Nature Center, kayaking, caving, snorkeling, animal presentations, and then learn about flora and fauna and how to be good stewards of the environment. We also have Park Ranger Cadet Program. This is very specific to teens. It's in a relationship with the Aikens, or it used to be in relationship with the Aikens, where we have a cadet program. And the cadet program, we help prepare young individuals to become cadets, and so it's a feeder program into the Park Ranger program, but also this Park Ranger cadet program and the Park Rangers themselves try to enhance particular programs that are free programs to children. So we have something called Boredom Busters. So in order for those children to get because it's a free program, in order for them to be able to have some experiences and some immersion and exposure to things that they might not otherwise have, this is an outreach program that goes specifically to Boredom Busters to make sure that they can enjoy nature activities. And so on specific days that parents are okay with, we will take children kayaking or to other locations to experience something that they might not get at their recreation center. Something very specific that I thought was important to mention is the fact that we have a really great partnership with AISD, with Superintendent Segura, in order for us to have green school parks, and that green school parks allow children to be immersed in nature. 80% of the children across the world are living in an urban setting. This particular program allows us to have 21 schools where we are partnering with the school district to be able to create spaces that are not only just for learning, but immersion into nature, and allows children and family to use it, not just for the curriculum in the school day, but then also after school. And so we're incredibly thankful to the school district that while this is not necessarily a specific summer camp or after school program, and is an out of school time program that AISD helps to support and allows the families to be able to access the school even when it's not open for school-time business. That was a lot of information. Happy to answer questions, and if I can't answer them, I will get the information to you.
Thank you, Ms. McNeely. So I think we have time for one question. That was very good. But
Really quickly.
yes.
I appreciate the explanation of what the programs are. I'm interested in who the programs serve. So what we try to do at the county is identify where we locate the program, where it physically sits, and then who it serves. Gives me an idea of the places where we're serving kids, and then the gaps where we need to serve. I'd be interested in knowing where you're located and who you serve.
I could map those for you, Commissioner, and send them. Yes.
I'd be interested in that as well. Can share it with the.
So in those areas where the cultural centers are in a specific place, we only have one cultural center. It's set, of a particular kind. But we can tell you where where the participants are coming from. So we will map that for you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was such an excellent presentation. So much good information.
And Chair, I'll just offer, my kids have done several of these camps, and they really are remarkable. And also just the park pickup program in the summer. It's a really remarkable offering. Appreciate the city doing that.
Thank you. All right.
Trustee, President Singh, I have just a comment. I know one of the areas, I visited the summer camps this past summer, and one thing that got my attention is I know that mental health first aid training is something that our rec center staff would be very excited to be able to do, because our kids go to the rec centers after school and in the summer. And so, Ms. McNeely, is that something that y'all are staff getting mental health first aid training?
Yes, Ms. Zapata, thanks to you, you sent us that information, and we have been able to schedule 3 different classes for mental health first aid, and 90 different staff members will be attending that. And it's going to occur at the end of April and the beginning of May. I've just forgotten the actual dates, but thank you for your advocacy and for sending us that information.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to both of you. So next on the agenda is an update on the child care working group. I don't think so. Was somebody else going to present on this topic? Okay. All right, so next on the agenda is an update on the child care working group by Councilmember Allison Alter, and let's limit this discussion to about 7 minutes if that's possible, just because we got a late start.
I will
Thank you.
definitely do my best, and just want to point out for everyone that there's additionally some background also in the backup for Austin Public Health after-school programs. We at the city have been really trying to lean into this and to support after-school programs, recognizing the importance. And one of the things people know about that we're doing is prime time, but there's a series of other options that Laura de la Fuente put together for us there. And so if you have questions, I'm sure Public Health will be happy to answer them afterwards or in the future.
Where is it in the backup?
It's in this booklet at the
Section B.
Section B.
It's right behind the presentation.
So for the childcare, I can't remember when we met in January what the date was, whether we had passed it or not at the city, but we have adopted Prop 2 from the state, which allows for the 100% childcare exemption at the city. And I believe the county, Jeff or Bridget, if you want to chime in, I believe the county adopted it as well last week. So we will have both county and city tax exemptions for childcare agencies. We don't have an exact number of how many agencies will be impacted. I think the city was operating off of 100 number and the county maybe 50, so we just somewhere in that range. There are qualifications that they have to meet, and they also do need to apply for the exemption at TCAD, but I believe that TCAD's using the same exemption for the city and the county in terms of the form to be able to do that. So folks do need to apply for that. That is something. It's one of many tools that we are trying to move forward with. The working group at a very high level is continuing to make the case for the importance of childcare investments. I think that as you go out in the community more and more, childcare is being tied to workforce needs, and we're hearing over and over again, whether it's our workforce programs or whether it's our employers, that part of the struggle that they're having in finding workers is the lack of childcare. And that is above and beyond everything that having quality childcare can do for the kids. So we have been focused on kind of making that case. And we continue to be working through whether we will pursue this opportunity at the county or the city in terms of having ongoing funding. We have in May at the city, we should be hearing back from our staff about how we can provide similar type of assistance to Prop 2 for our family-based care providers. They're not eligible according to Proposition 2 for that, but here in Austin, for our youngest children, family-based care is a very important component. So we want to see what we can do because they own their own, they're working out of their homes, it becomes more complicated. But we believe that we may have some opportunities to do that, and that should be coming back to council to look into in May, and hopefully we'll be able to take some action with respect to that. Then I wanted to see if Commissioner Trevelyan or Commissioner Shea wanted to say anything about county discussions.
We'll be really interested to see what information you get about how to provide those tax exemptions to home-based childcare, because that is an issue, and there's a lot of that kind of care being provided. I also want to just say I really appreciate with the tax exemption that if the tax exemption goes to the landlord, but it's the tenant that's providing the child care, the landlord has to sign an affidavit indicating that they have passed along the equivalent savings from that tax exemption in the form of a rent reduction for the child care operation if it's in a rental facility. And we identified about 50, I think, in the county for that service.
Just really important thing that we're doing. We want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for the greatest number of families. So appreciate the work that's been done, that we're working together. I think that we're a lot stronger when we align ourselves and work together. So at 7 minutes, I'm cognizant.
Thank you. And we have such opportunities here, and hopefully we will be able to move forward with something big that will affect many, many children and many families in our community and many employers. And appreciate all the information earlier today. And I think with that, we can wrap it up for now.
Thank you so much. Really important work that you all are doing. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So the next topic is something that's near and dear, I think, to all of us, and that's mental health. And we are very fortunate to have, I'll just say one of my favorite people in the district, Dr. Twyla Williams is here, along with Dr. Kimberly Wilson from AISD, and so they're going to present to you. So in your packet is an overview of behavioral health services offered by Travis County Health and Human Services.
President Singh, how much time do we have for this item?
We can do, I think, 20, well, let me double check.
It's 12:54 now.
I think we could do about 18 minutes total, let's start with 18 and we'll be able to stretch that out a little.
All right.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for this opportunity. Mike. Good afternoon. Thank you all for this opportunity. We are excited to be here to discuss mental health. I am Twyla Williams. I'm the Executive Director of Counseling and Mental Health for Austin ISD, and this is Dr. Kimberly Wilson, who is the Director of Crisis Management and Mental Health. The picture that you see on the screen is what makes up our team, and we'll talk to a little bit about who's on the team. It's our social emotional learning and cultural proficiency and inclusiveness team. It's our trust-based relational intervention, or our trauma-informed care, and our counseling coordinators that are represented on the picture. In our counseling and mental health department, we provide comprehensive counseling program that addresses academic, social, emotional learning, and mental health supports for all students through a trauma-informed lens. What does that mean? That means we care for all students, their mental wellness, from the area of them being mentally healthy to mental illness and the supports that are provided. What I believe you have in your packets are the mental health supports that are combined. It's a report that is combined of what's offered in Austin ISD and what is offered in the county and the city, bless you, and how those supports work together. Because you have that information, we can go back over it at the end of the presentation if needed. The next slide, what you're seeing is how we function in the Counseling and Mental Health Department, and it's through a multi-tiered system of support. And with our tiered supports, it outlines each one of those programs or each one of those teams within the department that we share. When we think about school counselors, we think about a lot of people equate school counselors with academic counselors, and that is a part of what their role is. But academic counselors or school counselors also play a very big part in supporting our students through their mental health journey or their mental wellness journey. The role of the school counselor begins with the tier 1 side of it, and tier 1 is preventative, and it is for all students. It is the mere fact that where school counselors will provide relationships with students. As students experience different levels of needs, the school counselor is there. So it begins with the school counselor and it stays with the school counselor. The school counselor is one of the constants that is on the campus supporting the students. Sorry, it's a gnat. Supporting the students with any trauma that may arise or any mental wellness or mental illness that may arise as well. When we look at tier 2, it's the school counseling, but it's also individual or group. So maybe the classroom lessons may not be enough for all students, but it's an opportunity to identify greater needs. And when those needs are identified, then counselors are able to work individually with the students, and they're also able to form groups. Say if they notice through a needs assessment that there are students whose parents or caregivers may have experienced divorce. So counselors can then pull those students together and offer group sessions for those students. As we move into greater needs, the tier 3 needs, that's where our licensed mental health professionals come in for intensive case management and also crisis intervention as needed, and we will talk more about that. When you look at the top tier, that is where we identify the needs of students where they may need short-term counseling through our school mental health centers and Austin ISD, which you will find more information in just a second about that as well. I would like to mention the AISD Mental Health Initiative, which is an overview of what we are planning and what we are actually currently creating at this time. With this overview, it is an initiative through our superintendent, Matthias, and our board of trustees, who we are very grateful for, to invest in student and staff well-being and mental wellness. And so with an overview, what we're looking to do through the multi-tiered system of support is provide professional learning for students and staff and families. We heard the mention of mental health first aid, which is one aspect of the training, but we are looking to train our staff in the next 3 to 5 years for early indicators, for early platforms, early opportunities before it gets to the point where there's a crisis or where there's an outcry. So we're really looking at more of the preventative. And one way to identify the preventative is to know the signs, to know the early warning signs, and knowing how to track those signs, or even to be able to identify those signs as we are working through looking at different platforms for mental health supports to be able to identify those. We are also looking at the role of the school counselor. The role of the school counselor was created for academic outcomes, to ensure that our students are getting what they need. And when trauma arises or when certain issues arise where students are not able to perform and do well, that's where the school counselor role is to help to identify, to help address it, and to help to integrate the students back into the classroom. Another part of the mental health initiative are school-based mental health centers, which we have 31 licensed mental health professionals, and we have the school mental health centers that are designed to be on every campus. And so we have some further statistics as we go through the program. Superintendent Segura, would you like to add to the mental health initiative?
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I think for us as an organization, it's really about identifying where we want to be in 2 or 3 years and recognizing that it cannot happen overnight. And many things have to be tied to the budget, approved by our trustees before we can even take the first step. So what I'm, proud of here is, we identified an initiative we created for kind of areas within it. Dr. Williams just mentioned the 4 But like, just even having the mental health spaces on each of our campuses. I mean, we have 113 campuses. So identifying the space, where is it located? How are you going to fit it out? Where are the funds for it? All of these things take time, but we have a thoughtful plan, and we're well underway in getting there. The other thing I would say is the platform that was identified as bullet 3, that's huge, right? So we have an immense amount of information that we receive every single day, right? We're tracking attendance, we're tracking grades, we're tracking everything that occurs with our students within our campuses. And so we're eager to expand our platform to identify those students who would otherwise maybe be invisible, right? If a student had A's, all last year, and all of a sudden they drop down to be a low B, high C student, that might not be, it might not raise any alarms, right? For the vast majority in a big high school, for instance. But if you correlate that with an increase in absences, if we've had the student for many years, and this is not a typical behavior, then all of a sudden we can begin to identify those students, and with the supports of the campus, get then the support earlier than we would have otherwise, because it's just not as visible. And so we're really excited about that platform. It's something we would not have been able to do 2 years ago because we didn't have the larger platform, the ERP system in place. So,
And that's more common than you think. We had a kid, 4th grader, straight A student, goes home for Christmas, comes back, is not interested in school, puts his head on the table. We find out that he learned that his mother had terminal cancer.
Yep, that's right.
So how do we address, where do we address on a campus-by-campus basis? That was really important. And I will thank Gene Spencer, who was a member of staff at that time, who found out, went and talked to the child, made the diagnosis. So it was
that's a perfect example. That might otherwise be totally missed, right? And so we have a lot of information we can pull from, and so that's going to help empower us to make the right decision earlier.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, it's streamlining our systems, because we have where in some aspects we're doing it really well. In some aspects we are not identifying it until it's at a place where we wish we would have identified it earlier. So again, it's about streamlining the systems and having a system in place to be able to track or progress monitor the support for our students. We talked about the school counselors and the role of the school counselor. So this is a slide. We currently have 172-ish school counselors, and a new role that we have is also wellness counselors. And so the wellness counselors and the school counselors serve together on the campus to provide those Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports. I wanted to briefly mention our brain science, brain-based learning based on Dr. Bruce Perry, and this is where our trauma-informed care integrates with our Tier 1 supports. This is where we go into the classrooms and we help to identify trauma that students may have, and we do it holistically as we are working with the students with their individual college and career military readiness plans. So we know that what it may look like is a student may go in to see their high school counselor to talk about graduation requirements. The counselor may identify the student as someone who may be homeless. So we can't just keep talking about what are you going to do past post-secondary readiness when you've got this situation that you're dealing with now. So what that would look like is making sure that we provide the wraparound services, or that we identify what the needs and how to help the student to stabilize that individual situation. So then we're able to then move on to discuss what's needed for graduation and beyond. I also mentioned that a part of our department is the social emotional learning and cultural proficiency and inclusiveness team. And within this team, this is where we have our department that is Tier 1, could also be Tier 2 or Tier 3 needs as well. But it's identifying what those social needs may be, those emotional needs may be, also the cultural proficiency side of it. How does race impact how a student is learning or how they're not able to learn? How does that impact how they're interacting with their teachers or interacting with fellow students? And this is just the 3 signature practices that goes along with the social emotional learning aspect of our department.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Kimberly Wilson. I am the Director for Mental Health and Crisis Management. And so I want to talk a little bit about ASD Wellness Counselors. This is a new position, a fairly recent position in Tier 2. And so when we look at the multi-tiered systems of support, we're looking at, again, the school counselor being that gateway, that friendly face for students on the campuses, for teachers and administration, and for the whole campus. But once it reaches a level where additional pullout is needed, or maybe more counseling supports or counseling is brief counseling, short-term counseling is needed. In the areas of maybe a student, maybe is going through a divorce or maybe poor relationships, but they need more of an ongoing support. Wellness counselors can provide that. And so as you see, we do have like 17 and a half wellness counselors to do that. So that's on the campus level. The next tier, in terms of where my role come in and the team that I support, is looking at from, I guess, the district level, the trauma-informed lens on how we support campuses as they support students. And so we provide direct counseling support. And when we talk about the levels of crisis, that could be the daily crisis of students with experiencing self-harms, self-ideation. It could be something of a larger crisis dynamic when we have to go out and as a team and support the campus during a critical incident. And so, and because we serve campuses who already support and students in campuses and then the staff there, we again that Tier 3 model. So 10%, we're thinking a max of 10% of the student population, but that's the intensity of the needs that we have. And so when we look at Tier 3, it's not all students. Counselors make referrals to our team, and it's based on, you look at the child study team meetings, the student support team. So there's a lot of things happening at Tier 1, Tier 2. When the services are exhausted, or again, the students need a little bit more, then a referral is made to the licensed mental health professional. This is on a day-to-day. Once the referral, once the referral is made, then we decide, we work with you, partner with the family, we partner with the campus and say, okay, what can we do to best support your student, your child, so that they can feel safe, they can be safe, they can have increased positive academic outcomes. And we look at attendance, we look at behavior, and we look at the emotional wellness and the state of being that their family is in. And so based on that, we decide with the family, like whether we refer what's internal supports. And when we talk about mental health, we're talking about the whole child. We're looking at, are they connected in the campuses? In your packet, I think in the mental health supports, we talk about other programs that we partner with. Are they connected to, because the sense of belonging is so important. So once we do that, and the family says, parent or guardian's like, they really need a little bit more. Maybe they have some barriers. Well, we have the licensed mental health professionals who can provide their license, either they're licensed clinically, social workers, licensed professional counselors, and they just have to have a license with the governing body. So it can be an LMFT. We just don't have any right now. So based on that, if it's where they have barriers and it's best and it's preventative for them to offer direct counseling, we can do that in the school mental health center. And right now, I am proud to say that we have about 94 school mental health centers. Now, there are some barriers with that, like Superintendent said, in terms of trying to make sure that we have designated space, because at some campuses we just have to share. But we want our counseling experience to be a quality of care for our students and families. And so out of the 94 centers, we have about 52 or so that are either shared. So they actually go to the campus and have a center. This is an example of one. We have an example of one. And this one, I want to say, this is the one at Anderson. So if you will go to Anderson has I'm going to say the word, we have a portable, but it's our portable. And, but there are 2 equipped rooms, and I have them rotating out. So it's not just about, 31, they serve one. No, we go where the need is. And so, and it's rotating. This is short term. The beauty of the team also is we're working with families, and if it's something that is that we'll be able to provide preventative strategies too, coping strategies, and they've mastered their goal, great. But if they need long term, we work with that family to connect them. And so I always say we don't, we're not turning anybody away. The need is there, and we're going to be able to meet that. And so along with that, and tier 3 support, this is the intensive needs. We work with our CIT, our crisis intervention team, through the Austin Police Department. Austin ISD, Austin ISD Police Crisis Intervention. Let me get that straight. And so, and they too have a team, and one of the team members, they have the police officers, but they also have a social worker also that provides crisis response. She's our coordinator, and we work in tandem when a student who is in crises, and it reached a level where we have to what we call having emergency detention, POED, when they're in crisis, may have to be hospitalized, then we work with the team when they are at a high level of risk.
So what do you use for your evaluation model? How do you evaluate the effectiveness of your services?
Okay, very good question. So this is the first year, and so what we're doing now, we have survey satisfaction, so parents and guardians as well as students. So we've designed a little satisfaction survey, and it's about 5 questions, and it's developmentally based. We have icon shapes with icons for the babies, because we do have, unfortunately, we have some, pre-K kinder, and then we also have for secondary, we also have a different, the same questions in fidelity, but it's geared toward their development to understanding, and then for parents and caregivers. So right now, this is what we're using, in hopes to grow. As we grow the mental health initiative, that's going to be a part of the measurement process. But we needed something to make sure that we're on the right track.
So Superintendent and Board Chair, Dr. Joyce James is probably the best of the best. Whatever is good about the state's program, she put together and works in the area. I know that we do some truancy work in JP1 that addresses family therapy and family needs, and it's already on the ground, and they're working with Prairie View in order to get that done. There are 2 or 3 resources that are on the ground that we should probably try to take advantage of, and wouldn't have a great deal of cost to them, but would deal with some of your core issues, and many of the core issues grow out of poverty. So I would certainly be willing to connect you all to both of those systems, and make sure that we're getting the best that we can for our kids.
Thank you. Commissioner Shea?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm seeing more and more literature on is a growing climate anxiety, particularly among young people. And I'm just curious if you're seeing much of this, if this is something that the counselors are equipped to address, or if they are seeing this surfacing much in school.
Yeah, very good noticing. So I will say last year we saw a little bit more of the anxiety piece, the social anxiety. This year we do see a lot of the trauma related to post-stress of things that are occurring. And unfortunately, the trends, when we look at the trends, and I meet with them monthly about, hey, what, because I want to see if it's per vertical team, per feeder school pattern, per area, or is this something that we're seeing across the board? And what we are seeing is that there's a lot of anxiety related to family dynamics, the culture. It could be a lot of family violence. We have, and even if you look the correlation within the news of all the different crime related to family violence, it impacts our students. And so they're bringing that to school, and we're able to not promise them a sense of safety, but give them a sense of safety where they can feel safe, be safe, and have coping strategies around that. So that is a high trend, but not as high as it was last year.
Just to piggyback on that, I'm on another program in a few minutes, but the family violence piece is critical and important, because you've got parents having to make the decision, well, this is violent, but if I leave, can I survive within the context of leaving? And so many choose to stay in a dangerous environment. So how do we understand, how do we address, how do we put the resources that are necessary to put people in temporary conditions if violence is at the core. That is a difficult and expensive area to work within, but sometimes we are talking about life and death. So,
May I add one more thing? The other thing too that is a noticing is homelessness, eviction. Kids are fearful, having instability within the home. So that's another trend that we see, and that we work with our partners in terms of community partners, our shelters, and all that to make sure that they have case management there. But that's another trend that we see.
And just to add a resource to that, we've hired and allocated funds for legal assistance for people facing eviction. What would be the best way to reach out and access that kind of resource?
So they can contact El Buen Samaritano. Oh, yes. And both the city and the county fund their rental assistance programs.
So need use your mic. But we also have attorneys that we've funded through Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid and other legal aid organizations. And do they contact them through El Buen?
Right. So if they're at the eviction, getting really close to eviction, they would go through El Buen, and El Buen would connect them to those legal services, as well as assist them through to prevent the eviction. If the eviction were still to go through, then they can assist them with relocation assistance.
Thank you for that. That's a good partner for us. Thank you.
And I also wanted to, I'm sorry, just real quickly about the family violence and the different issues, even anxiety. We look at it from a standpoint of the whole child, and we look at it under the umbrella of safety. So we're working with other departments as we discuss safety, because it may be mental wellness, but it also may be physical safety. So it's under the umbrella of the safety and supportive schools program as well.
All right, thank you so much. Excellent presentation. Clearly, this is an ongoing conversation, but really appreciate both of your leadership on this issue. Thank you. All right. So before we lose any more people, we will move on to the next. We've got two more items. One is the planning year for the Summer Youth Employment Program. There is a written report, I believe, in our backup documentation. Is that correct? Someone tell me. Which tab? Oh, tab 4D. Perfect, thank you. And Trustee Zapata had to log off, but I know that this is her baby, so I'm sad she's going to miss this conversation. But does anybody have any questions? Is there anyone from the city that might be able to speak to this?
So what we included was a lot of information based on our presentation from last time. We presented on this program last time we were together. And we added a few more slides on there to tell you a little bit about the new things that we're doing with a mentorship program, interviews, and more of a helping the kids with a smaller number of kids so that the quality is better. What I believe Trustee Zapata was interested in was to know more about the planning year, what that meant. And we did decide to increase the number of kids to serve. Last time we presented, we said we would serve 300, train 500, and actually place 300. So we have raised it to 400 based on the request that you all made and Trustee Zapata made. And also just to let you know that we have had a preliminary discussion with AISD and the Workforce Solutions and the City of Austin to talk about how we can take the program to the next level, evolve it. Is it better administered outside of the city and the county, to think about those options if there are any. And so we're continuing to explore all the ways that we can work together and collaborate.
Thank you. How awesome that we're going to be able to serve 400 students through this program. And it's a longer program, correct?
Right, we took it from 2 sessions to 1 session, and it increased it from 5 weeks to 7 weeks.
Great, thank you. And these kids get paid.
These kids
Pretty
get
well.
paid, yes. And last year, we increased the hourly rate from $7.25 to $13 an hour.
Wow, that's great. All right, are there any questions?
Is there, one quick question, is there a confirmation on number of spots that are being made available between the county, the city, and the school district?
We don't have a confirmation of the number of spots. I know that the school district did really, really well last year. We thank you very much for opening spots for the kids. I know that we have more spots outside of those 3 organizations than we do in those organizations.
Thank you. All right, so appreciate that. All right, so now we will move to the last item, which is unfinished business and new business and proposed future agenda items. So I'm open to hearing suggestions.
I'd be interested to get a briefing on the whether or not there is education related to impacts of climate change and preparedness happening among any of our 3 entities. The school district, to me, is the obvious place. We've been working on a lot of different community preparedness initiatives at the county just to try and better prepare people for the impacts of wildfire and flood and increasingly destructive weather that's impacting our region. And I know there's a lot of pressure on the school district in general, particularly from the legislature and people who are not supporters of public education. But I'm just wondering if there's any opportunities to use the natural learning abilities of children to help families be better prepared for increasingly frequent disasters. It may be a taboo subject, but I think it's worth at least asking the question.
Thank you.
We may want to go back and revisit some of the issues that ISD was experiencing so we can update on how you've handled it. I understand you've handled a lot of these really, really well and want to give you that opportunity to come back and inform us on that. And, I need to digest the after school information and, put it together with the work that we're doing on childcare. It may be appropriate to have a broader discussion at the next meeting. I don't know on the timing. But I think there was a lot of questions that were raised with the after school where it'd be great to have a better picture of that. And, obviously AISD is here, so it may be that this is what we think is the need in AISD, and then extrapolating out, thinking that AISD is probably the better served of all the districts, at least for many of them, that would be kind of something we could extrapolate out, and that would give us a minimum need as opposed to a perfect assessment, which may be impossible because if we were providing subsidies, we might have more kids who needed the childcare. It is very expensive for many of these families, and so I think it would be good to get a better handle on that, whether this is the right form for that or not, or whether it happens faster. I don't know.
I'd be interested in that too. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I've got one other issue, and there probably won't be time. It'll be past the deadline by the next joint subcommittee meeting, but I've recently learned that with the upcoming Texas Central Appraisal District elections, which are now mandated because of a change in state law, that there is the potential for school districts to be actively harmed in terms of their tax revenues if people who are, I would say, anti-tax or anti-government get elected and somehow impact the independent nature of the appraisal process. I've seen now 16 different examples where if appraisals were deemed to be outside a 5% margin of error as determined by the state comptroller who audits the appraisal districts, it's only the school districts that have to repay, and in some cases, millions of dollars. So I think people need to understand that this is not an opportunity for people who don't like taxes to run for election and try and really upset the whole system. And that people need to understand that there's a potential very serious financial threat to public schools should that happen. And the election is May 4th, and virtually no one knows about it.
Thank you. All right, any other items? Yes.
I just wanted to point out that Travis County did submit a report in regards to what we fund in after school and summer programming. It's the very last page on your packet. So we just wanted to make sure that you had that.
Thank you. I wanted to ask our city reps here, would it be appropriate to have our, I believe you all might have been, are in the process of hiring a new city manager. I don't know when that person is going to be hired, and is there an opportunity maybe to have him come and introduce himself?
So I think it'd be great for him to come, assuming everything moves smoothly this week. We don't know exactly when he's coming on yet. Will be, mid-June, but hopefully a little sooner than that. And I just don't know that the timing will work with the next meeting. I'm not sure we can ask that in
Okay.
the first 2 weeks.
Sure. Maybe
that
the
he's
one
on,
after that.
but certainly the one after would definitely make sense.
All
When
right.
is the next meeting scheduled?
The next one will be June 10th at Travis County. You're hosting that one, so thank you. All right. Okay, any last comments? We're actually on time, so that's a miracle. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yes. All right, motion from Commissioner Shea, second by Councilmember Alter. Do we have to
All
vote?
those in favor?
All those in favor,
We need to vote
raise
on
your
adjournment.
hand. Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all.
The meeting is adjourned.
Really great information.
Thank you. At 1:28 p.m. Happy eclipse to everyone. Thank you.